My name's Ryan Schwansky, and thanks for joining me on another special series of interviews here on the Bluffton Buzz. I believe a voting person should be an informed person, and that's the point of this entire series, is just to get the word out. Voting is open now through the 7th. The 7th of November, 2023 is voting day, so make sure you get out and vote. I also would like to thank the Bluffton Chamber of Commerce for helping us out. In full transparency, I am on the board of the chamber, and I was still a big ask to ask the chamber. So thank you, Natalie and Mark, for allowing us to use all the great businesses within the chamber to get this word out to them as well. Bob, thank you for joining me today, sir.
My pleasure, Ryan.
How are you doing?
Excellent.
Cool. So I want to start here. Usually I start with who you are and what you do, but we're here at One Hot Mamas. Why did you choose One Hot Mamas?
So Orchid, the owner of One Hot Mamas, was a good friend of mine growing up. We worked together. We went to college together at the University of Illinois. After college, she got a job down on Hilton Head working at the Hilton. And she had a pretty sweet gig, and they gave her some housing that had some extra bedrooms in it. And I was looking to get into the hotel industry at the time.
Yeah.
And I just packed up the car and moved down here and lived on Hilton Head for a while back in the mid-90s. And then moved back to Chicago, and really was there, the majority of the years after that until we started getting the itch to move out of Chicago. We love Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's a shame what's happened in Chicago.
It is.
And it wasn't really safe for our kids to be out playing. We lived very close to downtown Chicago. And also the school curriculum changed, and they were teaching a lot of things even in private school that we felt was inappropriate for our kids to be learning at the age that they were at. So we came down here for my wife's 50th birthday. That was back in 2021. That was her first time here, and my family came down, her whole family came down. We had 20 people, everyone had a blast. And then we were like, well, let's go down again in a few months. So we came back down for Thanksgiving, had a great time, checked out some houses just to see what was available. Originally, we were thinking about maybe buying an investment property and renting it out until we were ready to retire. And then I kind of got to thinking and started calling some people who I was networking with down here about the schools, and we applied to Hilton Head Christian Academy after their deadline, but we ended up getting in there, all three of our kids. And really at that point, it was full steam ahead. We were working on a bunch of house projects. So we put those on overdrive, got the house on the market, and we were here by the beginning of August. So this all took place between February and when we finally moved here, August, and we closed on our Chicago house the day that we arrived here in Bluffton.
So it was like you were full speed coming here, regardless of whatever happened up there. You were closing on that, and you came down here. So
Right.
you chose One Hot Mamas because Orchid, who's like a local celebrity at this point, was your roommate.
That was one thing. Yeah, I mean, but she was just a good friend who, for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with her husband. And
I love the location. I think it's a good pick.
For sure. It's we love the food, and we come here all the time. And one thing when we were considering moving is that she really posed the question, because we were really looking at Hilton Head first. And she really posed the question, if your kids are going to be going to HHCA, do you want to be driving over the bridge every day?
Right.
And that, I can't really even thank her enough for just making me think about that, because that really sealed the deal as far as Bluffton goes, and we're super happy that we chose Bluffton. I mean, it's definitely the place for us.
So on that note, what about Bluffton really stood out to you to make sure you were here? Besides the drive, what stands out to you about Bluffton?
Well, I would say that the people who live here in general, I feel are very religious, very Christian, and that was one thing that was kind of painful about living in Chicago is that even though our kids were going to a Catholic school, the teachers were not even Christian, and they were teaching them religion. So, we wanted them to have religion in their life, and a lot of the people who we met and who we have met are all churchgoers. They have, they support Judeo-Christian values, family, all the things that were really important to us that we really couldn't find in Chicago.
Cool. That's a good reason, yeah. It's a tight-knit community here. A lot of churches to choose from. I'm curious, How did you choose your church?
Really, one of my daughter's friends had suggested it.
Okay.
And we went there. This was probably back in September. So it's been over a year that we've been going there.
Cool.
And I play on the worship team. I play the drum a few Sundays a month.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, I always get intimidated with the whole church thing because I just started recently getting back into Christianity, more full speed than I was before. And then everybody's hearing about it, come to my church, come to my church. And I'm like, which church do I choose? It's overwhelming.
Yeah. So we're pretty involved with the church and we like it. One thing that I've been kind of surprised about is that if you're not in that type of community, you think that people are way over the top, but they're not at all. At least the people that go to my church, and I'm in a small group, and the people who are in that group are just totally normal people who I just really enjoy hanging out with.
Good. Sounds like you found the right spot. Tell me a little bit about your family makeup.
So I have my awesome wife, Melissa. We met on Match.com. This was back in 2007. And we went on our first date. It was a great date. Second date, I took her to see Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
That kind of sealed the deal.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
And then a few weeks in, we realized that, so my wife is a pediatric dentist. We realized a few weeks in that both our fathers are dentists, and we found out that our fathers were in the exact same class in dental school.
Oh, wow.
University of Illinois, graduated in the 60s. And her dad, so she asked her dad, "Hey, do you know Rudy Berger?" He's like, "Rudy? Oh yeah, me and him, we go way back. I used to borrow his car, take girls on dates. They used to party all the time."
That's cool.
So that was very ironic, I guess.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time that they saw each other because they lost touch. So it was my 35th birthday, and I had a big party at a bar, and they saw each other for the first time, and they were like two kids in a candy store.
Yeah.
So that made everything so much easier when our families would get together.
Absolutely. Makes the father-in-law situation way less stressful.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, we get along great. Everyone loves the golf.
Good.
It was a natural fit. We're all Chicago White Sox fans. So
that's cool. So what made you want to? You've been here for how many months now? Because you can still count it in months, right?
Right. Now let me just mention my three kids also.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to leave the kids out. Sorry, guys.
So I have three kids: Stella, Zoe, and James, who go to Hilton Head Christian Academy.
Okay.
My girls they're extremely good competitive dancers. And James plays baseball. He's my youngest, and just started picking up the guitar. He likes break dancing. He likes all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't normally think, but he is willing to try anything. He's very adventurous. They're all pretty adventurous. They're all really, really great kids, really great people. Melissa and I love to just hang out with them. We just love to be around them. We like to vacation a lot whenever we get a chance, and just explore new areas, try new things.
Good. Sounds like you raised them right. That's why you like hanging out with them.
We try, yeah.
So what made you want to get involved with town politics? You've been here for less than 2 years. What was the jump? What did you see going on that you felt needed to change? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I have never really had a desire to get into politics, but I do like politics. I like discussing politics, and I would say that a lot of the problems that we have going on in our nation today, for example, woke ideology, has crept into the town of Bluffton and into the town government. And you can see that evidenced by some, an ordinance that has been passed recently. Some of the initiatives that the town has taken on. And I just left Chicago to get away from that stuff, and now I'm realizing that, a lot of what's happening in town government kind of follows that type of reasoning, I guess, not reasoning, but ideology is just not like the only way to describe it. And I think that there are good people on the council. I'm not saying that they're bad people in any way, but I think that they're doing what they think is the right thing, and they don't realize that, a lot of these programs like diversity, equity, and inclusion have their roots in Marxism. And Marxism is something that once you embark on that journey, it's kind of like the camel's nose under the tent. Before you know it, a lot of the policies and programs that the town is focusing their energy and resources on have to do with transforming town government to fit that way of thinking.
Okay. Do you have any, not to put anybody else on the spot or say any names, but do you have any examples of where this woke ideology has permeated into our government?
Well, so it's at a point where it's not blatantly in your face, but the town recently passed a hate crime ordinance. And South Carolina is one of the 2 states in the nation that don't have a statewide hate crime ordinance. But, and I think that, for sure, like hate crimes, if you can really prove that they're hate crimes, which I think is extremely hard to prove, I just think that it just goes along with the race politics. So if you have a judge who feels a certain way and 2 people get in a fight and one is one race and one is another race, then if the judge is favorable to that one person's race, they can say, oh, okay, well, you got in a fight because it was a hate crime. I'm just making up a very benign example, but there aren't, as far as I know, and there aren't, concrete details about what is considered a hate crime and what has to be proven for it to be a hate crime. But I believe that any violent crime should be prosecuted equally, regardless. If you harm another person, then you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, no matter what your race is or what your religion is, or any other criteria.
Okay, fair enough. Good example. So I reached out to various Facebook groups asking what mattered to the people of our town, and the majority of them responded carrying the same themes. About 85-90% were basically all these same questions about to ask you. So it made my job pretty easy in compiling these questions. I'm going to run through them in no way to particular order. Also, please keep in mind as a viewer that everybody running for both town council and mayor do not hold any political affiliations here locally in the town. There is no Democrat, Republican, or independent, so I just wanted to make that known moving forward talking to these issues. First topic that came up was conflict of interest. There seems to be concern with business owners mixing their personal, I shouldn't say personal, their business backgrounds with their political seats. Do you think that's part of the game? Do you think that needs to be stopped? Is there a way to stop it?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that anyone has done any type of wrongdoing. I do know that there's some projects in town that could benefit businesses of some of the candidates, which I don't think that that's great, but if they don't do anything or they don't direct resources to specific places that would benefit their businesses, then I think that's okay. But that's also another reason why I'm running, because I don't have any affiliation to a local business. And I think that it seems a lot of the focus of monetary resources goes to Old Town. There are projects outside of Old Town, and I'm happy about what's going on, but I think that there should be some balance and there should be some representation for the people who live outside of Old Town. Whether that ends up being, turning into a specific project or not, they should just have representation at the table.
Another issue that came up was term limits. Do you feel like the town should have term limits? Do you feel like somebody could, after a certain amount of years, just start really running things the way they want it to go and not on behalf of the town? Do you think we should institute some term limits?
I always think that term limits are a good thing. So if it's a four-year term, I think that 2 terms are very reasonable.
Do you feel like you would be able to get enough done with what you want to do in 8 years?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. We'll talk about that at the end, exactly what you want to do in terms of your platform.
Okay.
So infrastructure came up, and big word, lot to cover under infrastructure. You have housing, you have roads, you have the employees of the town, land issues, schools, labor shortages. So I'm going to go through each one of these one at a time. The first one's going to be housing. And I'd like to start with the definition of affordable housing. Affordable housing is housing that a household can pay for while still having money left over for other necessities like food, transportation, and healthcare. That means what's considered affordable depends on a household's income. The federal government typically defines housing as affordable when it consumes no more than 30% of a household's income. With that said, with the current high interest rates, high inflation, high demand, and low supply for our area, is affordable housing even possible for us anytime soon?
Well, I don't think that. So there's kind of a question within a question, because everyone wants to talk. Well, not everyone, but the town council is focused on affordable housing, whereas the no housing is affordable here for anyone. I mean, some people can afford it, but I would say like a middle-class family would be difficult for them to move to Bluffton and pay a market rate, and that's just because of supply and demand, and that's just the way things are. As far as the affordable housing where people get subsidies, I think that, well, I was in real estate for 20 years, and I've read plenty of news stories where, and I actually know this firsthand, that you have to make below a certain declared income, so what you file taxes for. But if you have a cash job on the side, that you don't have to file you do your IRS filing,
Yeah.
then you're still making money that would really normally disqualify you
For sure.
for housing. So you're then taking somebody else's spot, maybe who would be more deserving of it.
Yeah.
But also, I think it comes down to if you have one affordable house or one affordable unit, and it's between two families who make the same amount of money, what is the criteria going to be to decide who gets it and who doesn't? And I think that is what needs to be laid out on the table so that there are no preferences whatsoever. There has to be ways that people can qualify that will really be equal opportunity for all. And the other thing is that I'm not, usually affordable housing means that you're going to have many units. They're not going to be single family homes at affordable rate. So you're then talking about building some type of apartment complex, and I think that when you start building up, that's when things really start to change in the town. As soon as Nashville started going gangbusters with building condominium units, and then you had a lot more, possibly single people moving to Nashville, younger single people. It changed the character of the town. And I think that Bluffton traditionally has a character that I would like to preserve. And that leads to many other things like crime and just general attitude. And a lot of times you might have people who aren't quite as invested in the community as those who have families and they plan on living in the community for a long time.
Yeah.
They have more like transient people who are, coming and going for work. I don't know if they have as much stake in the town, in the town's success.
Yeah. What do you think the character of Bluffton is that you want to preserve? How would you describe that character?
Well, I think that it has been a pretty, besides population growth, I think the character of the town has been pretty stable and relatively safe. And, just a very nice place for a family to live.
So it seems like safety, a nice
Safety
safe place to live.
Safety,
is what you're saying.
that, and I think that, generally the people are, if you look at the voting record, people are generally more conservative, and that's why you have such a large religious community. I think the two kind of go hand in hand, and I think that's a nice feature of Bluffton.
Okay, fair enough. On to the next one, roads, which you did talk about. I know we're in a booming area, and there seems to be traffic accidents all the time. Seems to be for our area what folks that lived here before even I moved here call this crazy traffic. I've seen worse. I've dealt with worse. I've seen some crazy things over my years driving around the country, but to me it's kind of unfortunate but understandable as the town's growing and the roads are only so big and we're only meant for so much. Do you feel like we can alleviate these traffic pressures by either growing roads or doing something else, but still keep that small town feel?
Well, as we all know, a lot of the roads belong to Beaufort County, and I just think with all the building that's going on, it's probably going to get a little bit worse. But I think that there has to be some cooperation, and people have to be more engaged in government to, put more pressure on politicians, not just Bluffton but Beaufort County, to make any necessary changes that are absolutely going to make the road safer. I don't know exactly what those would be, but
Okay.
That's not, people on the roads is not something that, a problem that's going to be solved anytime soon. I would say the better thing is maybe create some driver's ed programs and maybe flag some people and
Learn how to drive a circle.
yeah, like get report license plates, things like that. I'm half joking, but I think that there are a lot of really bad drivers here who, and it's not because they're aggressive, but it's actually the opposite. They're afraid to drive,
cautious,
and they don't follow the normal rules of the road.
Yeah.
Like who has the right of way?
Yeah.
They have the right of way, but yet they're going to stop and let you go first. And I do like that way of thinking, like being generous, but when people are expecting you to go, then you just need to go, and then the flow of traffic will be much better.
So combining housing and roads, is there a logical way to balance the building of new homes and improving an infrastructure? It seems like a little bit of a chicken or the egg scenario. Do you build more homes to alleviate the housing issues and then get more people on the roads, or do you fix the roads before they get to the housing, or what do you think there?
Well, I mean, the developments that are being built in right now, you're not going to really stop that. I think that ultimately, if interest rates keep going up, that's going to stop the building, and then people won't have to worry about more building.
Okay.
So that's a possibility, but people are still fleeing blue states, and they want to come here and build a house, and that's just the way it's going to be. Honestly, that is not my main focus and not my main reason for running. And I will do what's best for the community at large.
Yeah.
If I have a vote, I will vote for what's best for everyone.
Okay. Moving on to first responders, a lot of people said they're worried we don't have enough law enforcement and a first responder presence, including EMTs. They believe it's linked to the pay. What's your thoughts on the current state of our first responders, police, firefighters, and do we need improvement?
I mean, I think that there's room for improvement. I think that there are plenty of resources to especially hire more police, and I think that with the increase in petty crime, especially car break-ins, there's some car theft. I think that it's great that the police have a presence in town and they actually pull people over for speeding. I think that's great, but I also think that there should be patrols going through neighborhoods randomly where you can't figure out the schedule, just to have a presence in neighborhoods.
Do you believe we should increase our police force presence?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any ideas on how we could attract more officers wanting to work?
I definitely think that, money talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would, the council has passed the budget. I've seen the budget, and I think that if you see some other things that money is being spent on, it's clear that there would be enough resources to hire more police. But you also want to hire good police, not just more police.
You just don't want warm bodies, you want the right people.
Exactly. And I've met a lot of the officers here in Bluffton, and they're overall, I think that they're good police.
Yeah.
And I think they just need more help.
I think the hottest topic out of all these questions was schools. They're maxed out. Teachers aren't chomping at the bit to come down here and work. The pay isn't great. The respect isn't very good. What do you think the best answer is to getting the balance of schools per district and attracting more teachers and even the supporting staff like bus drivers and just people working in the schools to keep them running? What do you think we could do to make the pay more competitive and attractive and getting it done quickly?
Well, so a lot of that also falls under Beaufort County. And I don't know if your audience has watched or attended a school board meeting, but I would say that most of those people just really don't belong on the school board. I don't think that they don't have most of them don't have a clear vested interest in the town. A lot of them have been there forever. They like the power position, and they just don't care, is my, that's my observation.
If you became a council member, and I know you're saying, and I understand it is a county thing, is there any way that you could help give it a push?
Well, I would say that I would try to get people more involved with local government and be more aware of where the root of the problem might be, so that they turn out for elections and elect the right people to make decisions. But I mean, I think that Beaufort County is kind of working on a lot of issues, and I think that I'm all for, I voted for the referendum. I think the schools do need more help, but the direction of that help comes from the top.
Okay.
So I mean, me being here trying to get involved with Bluffton is kind of my first step. I mean, I definitely want to learn more about the inner workings of Beaufort County government.
Yeah.
But I'm, really just focused on the cultural aspect of Bluffton right now. But I am all for making the schools better. They do need more resources.
Yeah.
No question.
Okay.
And just because my kids go to a private school, I would love it if they could go to a public school. But doing my research in advance, I know that a lot of the kids are doing class in trailers outside, and it is, the teacher issue that you mentioned. I mean, that they need a complete overhaul.
No, I agree. Another one that came up, I'm sure you've heard about, is the donut holes of Bluffton. Are you familiar with that?
No.
No? Okay, so there's areas of Bluffton that aren't Bluffton, they're Beaufort County.
Right.
You know about that, right? Yeah, they call them donut holes.
Okay.
So the next question is going to be donut holes. It kind of ties people, and I should say, this isn't my thoughts, these are the folks' thoughts, but they believe that the donut holes can cause some of these infrastructure issues too, and tying a lot of them together. It's a unique issue to Bluffton. I haven't heard of it personally until I came here, but do you feel like if we changed the way things were annexed, or if we brought certain communities into Bluffton, that it would help any of these infrastructure issues?
It could. I'm sorry I didn't know they were called donut holes. I'm aware of those areas.
Yeah, that's what they call them, donut holes.
Okay. I mean, I think that...
Do you even see it as an issue?
I mean, I think it's kind of strange.
Yeah, I agree.
If you go into Bluffton Municipal, then you are going to pay higher taxes, and probably quite a bit more. So if you're a family with young children and you're on a budget, and then you have an increase in your taxes, you should be able to at least have a voice on whether you think that's a good idea. So I would honestly leave that, in a perfect world, I would probably have that be a referendum, and people can, chime in.
Okay. So something completely different than infrastructure is drugs. It's another topic that came up, specifically fentanyl. All right. I personally think it's like an attack on our country. All right. I think what's going on with fentanyl, I have friends who have just absolutely deteriorated because of it back home. I know many people who have died. A woman reached out locally in one of the Facebook groups who was a drug user and she's nearly half a decade clean. And she's very active in the rehab community. And I'll quote her here: "It's really hard for someone to get in the doors of detox and treatment here in the Low Country without driving 2+ hours, and this issue is not slowing down." She says the coroner's office has seen a massive spike since June. I don't have those stats, but let's assume she's right. And I'll paraphrase her question here. How can you help gap the road to recovery of drug addiction and alcohol? offer more Narcan training and help bring resources to light that people don't know exist and bring more positive awareness to the community?
The first thing that many people think of when they hear the word fentanyl is the border.
Okay.
I just can't help thinking that if you did not, or if you crack down on cartels, stop people from coming across the border illegally, then that would cut down on a lot of the fentanyl that gets into every single community.
How do you think we can make a change, try to put a stop to these things, and get people help more locally faster? I mean, if you're driving 2 hours away, it's a long time. That's a trip, and usually people who are driving those people out there are doing it on a volunteer basis to give them help. Any ideas on how we could tweak things locally here to make them work better?
Honestly, I would have to see the local stats and then determine based on the budget where money could come from to address that problem. But let's just say if it's hundreds of people, then you would probably want to address it somehow. And I think that, you know, what we told our kids is, if anyone gives you something, like, don't ever take it. You cannot trust people.
Yeah.
It's not like it was, you know, back in the 80s. So I think that that's, you know, an important thing for parents to really hone in on it.
Yeah.
In the community, all it takes is one time to get hooked. You don't know. You might think you're doing another drug. There could be fentanyl in it, and then it's all over.
Yeah.
I think education is an awareness for sure. But where would, if there were going to be resources allocated to that, if it was truly a terror, like a, I mean, don't get me wrong, even one death is bad, and overdoses are bad.
Very.
But you have to see where can you pull resources, and is it really going to benefit the community at large? Which it might.
Yeah.
I think that if you did have some type of campaign that you didn't bring in an outside consultant and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, it would be a community effort. And I mean, there are a lot of other problems that do deserve resources, but can you do it with the tax revenue that we have? That's something that you'd have to take from one thing and give to another.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I'm trying to represent Bluffton, is so that the resources are put toward the right elements.
So on that note, the next topic was spending, which I know is a pretty complex subject on its own. But if you were to pick a top three or a number one, where's one place that you know or feel that we need to be spending more, and where's one place that you feel like we need to be spending less?
So spending more, I think that you have a lot of people moving to Bluffton, and you have a lot of businesses in Bluffton that benefit from tourists coming, not necessarily tourists like on vacation, but, you know, Hilton Head benefits from tourists on vacation. Bluffton could have a lot more people coming to Bluffton if they increase their sports presence and built world-class facilities that could host major tournaments. And then you would have a lot of other people just coming to Bluffton, spending money, not necessarily moving to Bluffton, because they could be living somewhere else in the state. They don't need to move to Bluffton. But I think that especially where the soccer fields are, I think that there's a lot that could be done with that area. So
Where specifically? What soccer fields?
like the ones on Buckwalter.
Okay.
So that's just an example of where money could be spent
Yeah.
that I think it's kind of lacking.
So you're saying in this example, you would create a world-class facility for a certain level of sports? Would it be like more for the kids, and we would be bringing more families here for tournaments?
I'm sorry, I should have been more specific.
No, that's fine.
Definitely.
I didn't know if you wanted a new football team here or what. I was just
No, I think just kids sports.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of kids play soccer. I mean, I think baseball, we do have some fields, but I think they could also use improvement.
Yeah.
And where do I think less money could be spent? And also, I will add that more money should be spent on the police, which
Yeah.
we already went over.
For sure.
Just to start. Just to have some goals. The city recently has spent a lot of money on, well, promoting Juneteenth, which I think that's fine. But if you're going to do Juneteenth, which I think that day should be recognized, and I know now it's a federal holiday. But if you're going to do that, then let's have a Christopher Columbus celebration.
Okay.
I think that the town should, if you're going to have celebrations for, I know I'm gonna hear it for this, but I mean, I think that the town celebrations should be something that everyone can celebrate, and I do think, for example, Juneteenth is something that everyone should be happy about.
Yeah.
And what led to Juneteenth, but that is a specific day that some people say is kind of like the Black Independence Day, whereas I think that July 4th is the true Independence Day, and a commitment was made in the founding documents to get rid of slavery. It was a compromise, and it was always intended to get rid of it. So I think that day, and we are one of the only nations in the history of the planet to actually get rid of it. So I think that July 4th should have a massive celebration. They do have a July 4th celebration, but I think that something like Juneteenth is, I don't know that it deserves more resources than it's getting.
Okay. So finally, these are all the questions folks asked in the town. What is your platform? Where do you want to put your time and energy and efforts in the next 2, 4, 6 years, 8 years? If you put your term limits in, you're only getting 8. So what are you going to do in 8 years? What's your platform?
My platform is safety, stability, family, and to make sure that the policies that are put in place in town government really help to solidify those principles.
Okay. Any final words that you would like people to know about you before we close out?
Well, I know I'm really kind of an outsider, and I realize that. But what's worse, being an insider or being an outsider? I think that if you're an insider, there could be some incentive to cut deals or be favorable toward policies that won't necessarily benefit Bluffton as a whole. It might benefit them. Like we talked about that at the very beginning. Because I do not have a business in town, I'm more of a neutral player. And I just want to see this community remain a great place for families,
Okay.
where people can be themselves, not have to worry about just people that can be themselves.
Okay. Cool. Bob, I appreciate you joining me, man.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Again, I'd like to thank Natalie, who just stopped by from the Greater Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, for allowing us to helping us use their platform. Make sure you join us on the Bluffton Buzz on Facebook and YouTube to see not just more of these videos about the elections coming up, but also some really cool interviews that we've done and we will be continuing to do, highlighting and showcasing really fun and awesome folks here in Bluffton and the Low Country. And we implore you to get out and vote. Early voting is now. Make sure you get out. Voting day is the 7th, but you can vote right now, so get out and vote. Bob, thank you again for joining me, buddy.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.